Do you like speed? I love speed, baby. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm a speedy ass boy, right? And I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, so this past Monday, I ran a 16:56 5K, all right? Just 4 weeks ago, I was running an 18:05 5K. At that point, I was like, damn, this is really frustrating. What the hell am I gonna do? So I made some adjustments to my training. I decided to follow a very strict training regimen. It's been working really well, and I really want to tell you guys about that, right? I had a pretty inconsistent winter season. I wasn't really running as consistent as I'd like to. Things because of like vacation, just moving, new jobs, and all that kind of stuff. So it got crazy. But we started again in March. I was about doing about 15 miles a week then, and I was just telling myself, okay, I'm gonna do 1 5K a month, and that's kind of what I did. All right. So the goal of this video is to tell you exactly kind of what I did, right? Why I did it, and perhaps take what you can from this particular type of training plan, apply it to your own, see if it works. So although I went from an 18:05 to a 16:56 5K in a month, right, there was a lot of foundation in the beginning with it, right? There was a lot of foundation from the start of it. The first thing that it comes down to is mileage, right? There is no shortcut to mileage unless you're a super talented kid, right? Mileage, you need mileage. 99% of you need more mileage if you want to get faster, right? The most important thing that I've learned is the importance of slow and steady pacing, number one. And number two is slow building, is being able to build slowly, build progressively, right? Because if you build up your mileage too fast, right? It's like okay, you're hitting the gym, right? Ronnie Coleman, you're not gonna be putting 500 pounds for bench press and being all like lightweight, baby. Like, you're not gonna do that. That's stupid. Don't do that, please. Don't do that if you're gonna go in the gym. Obviously, you're not gonna go into the gym trying to max every day. All right, that's stupid. Nobody can sustain that at all ever. It doesn't matter what sport you do, right? You're not gonna get better at something every single day, right? Sometimes you gotta take a step back. Sometimes it takes several weeks for someone to PR in a race or to someone PR in a bench press or whatever, right? So we got into March, 15 miles a week. Then we got into April. We started building up a little more. I built up to about 35 miles a week, 35, I think up to 40 miles a week, but I ran a 5K right in the middle of April. I ran an 18:45K, and I won that race, so that gave me a lot of confidence, but 18:40 for me isn't like blazing fast, right? Regardless, I still continued to build up my mileage, and I got to the end of May, I ran another 5K, and I only hit an 18:33, right? Granted, I did get sick in between those weeks. At the very end of April, I had to take a whole week off because I got sick. Didn't really build my mileage back up, but that week I was expected to hit 50. I took a step back, went back and hit 45 that particular week that I got back, and then started to slowly build up. But I got to 50 miles a week, ran an 18:33 5K, and man, I just remember I started that race in like a 5:46, and I absolutely blew up. I feel like dog shit the rest of the race, and I was kind of disappointed with that. June comes along, I start building myself up to 60 miles a week, and my long run started to get a little longer. Every week I wanted to do about a mile longer for my longest run per week, right? So eventually I was able to build up to a 15-mile long run, and that's the longest I've ever done. End of June comes, I'm running an 18:05 5K, and then this is kind of where we are. It's like, yeah, I dropped about 25 seconds from my previous 5K, but it's like, I don't know, I'm not really that happy with it, I'm not gonna lie. It's like, what am I gonna do? So at this point, I'm completely changing my sort of training protocol. At this point, I'm doing 1 workout per week. I changed from that to doing 2 workouts a week. And it's like, I already know I want to, on average, run about 60 miles a week. So at this point, I'm keeping my mileage the same, but now I'm able to build the intensity. And that's kind of the one big key when it comes to training, is that build your mileage first and then build your intensity. So I spent about a couple of weeks building my intensity. So I started doing 2 workouts per week. And I'm going to tell you what those workouts were. So week 1, so this is the first week after the 5K. I also took about 3 days off in between just to kind of rest, build things back up again. First workout was a 2-mile up tempo. And my up tempo is about a 6:30 pace. And this is kind of another really important thing, is that once you do one or two test races, time trials if you will, whether it be a mile or a 5K, use that. My tempo would be 6:13 per mile, right? And then an up tempo is about 15 seconds slower than your tempo pace. So in that particular case, I ran about 6:30 per mile for 2 miles, right? So it's a 2 mile up tempo, 6:30 per mile, and then I did 8x400 uphill, slight incline, not really that big of an incline, but it's like by the end of it, you'll be pretty tired. And I did that at about tempo pace, maybe a little bit faster than tempo pace. So it was between like 6 flat and 6:15 per mile, nothing crazy fast, right? So that same week, second workout, I did a 5.11 mile tempo. I did that at 6:13 per mile. I ran a couple miles a little faster than usual. I ran one at 6:06, I ran another at 6:09. So I kind of knew that I was kind of pushing myself a little too hard at that point. And again, that's why it's so important to know your training paces, because if you don't really figure that out, then you're going to go into workouts either running way too fast or running too slow and not really getting the benefits out of the workout, right? So that's week 1. Second week, I started with a 2 mile up tempo, again at 6:30. 2 mile at 10K pace at 6 flat. That was my about predicted 10K race pace based on my 5K, even though it was probably a little slower. It didn't really matter. So I did that, and then I finished with an 8x400 at 5K pace, and this was all on gravel/grass. It was also about 90 degrees that day, so I was burning out that day. It was really bad. Would not recommend. Make sure you're not working out in the middle of the day. It's a terrible idea. You're gonna hurt, you're gonna cry, and it's gonna suck for you. Same week, second workout of the week, I did 8x1K at threshold pace. Threshold pace for me is about 15 seconds faster than your tempo pace. So I did that at about 5:57 to 6 flat pace. So I did 1Ks at that pace with a minute rest in between. That short rest is good because it's gonna keep your heart rate elevated at that ideal heart rate for pretty much the entire workout. So it's different than if you're doing like 8x1K at race pace, because that would be a more VO2 max kind of workout. And since we're still kind of early in the season, it's not really a smart idea to do that type of workout just yet. Right? So that's week 2. Week 3, we do basically the same thing as the first day, or the first workout in week 1, 2 mile up tempo. The only difference is like this is the first week where I started to notice that my fitness started to jump a bit. So I ran at about 6:25 per mile for an up tempo, and I definitely felt a lot better. And I did also 9x400 hills, and those 400s, instead of averaging about 90 seconds, they averaged about close to 87 seconds. I went as fast as 83 seconds on the last 400. And again, this is uphill, right? And it's really important to do those kind of workouts because you're working different type of muscles that are going to be beneficial, especially if you're in your cross-country season. It's going to give you a lot of strength, that sort of strength endurance, so that you can recover faster after you get off a hill. Same week, week 3, 6.5 tempo at 6:12 per mile. So notice that the difference between this tempo workout 2 weeks prior is that this one is about 1.5 miles longer. And the difference in how I felt was so different. By the end, I felt amazing running 6.5 miles at that tempo. And that was another indication that my fitness had jumped. And that's something you are going to have to reflect on when you're doing higher intensity workouts. You're doing them more frequently. Is think how you felt 2-3 weeks prior. Is this pace feeling easier? If so, this means you're probably training in the correct paces. If you're able to do the same pace and it feels easier and you're able to do it longer, especially with tempos, if you're able to do them longer and feel better at that same pace, that's usually a really good indicator that you got to finish. Week 4, also similar to week 2, is that we did a 2 mile tempo, did that at 6:25 pace, did a 2 mile 10K pace, did that at 5:55. And I'm telling you, when I did this workout, I felt so good. I went through that first mile at around, I think it was 5:55, and I just felt so much better. When I was doing that same 10K pace 2 weeks before. I felt a lot faster, I felt a lot smoother, my breathing felt a lot more comfortable. I genuinely felt, yeah, I could definitely hold this pace for a 10K. And then I finished that with a 9x400. It was supposed to be 5K pace. I more so did it at 3K pace, but I guess in retrospect, it actually did end up being 5K pace based on how I ran. So it was about, on average, I was running 82s per 400 with a 90-second rest. My last 400 was a 72 just because I wanted a little bit of kick to it. That's usually what I like to do because I feel like I'm a pretty balanced distance and speed runner. So it was kind of ideal that I did both. And then race day came along. I started in a 5:22 mile. Second mile I went through at 10:53. So I believe it's a 5:31 mile. And then I went through the third mile at 5:34. Finished the remaining part of the race at 5 flat pace for the last 0.16 miles, which hurt it a lot. See, the thing is my time was actually clocked in at 17:15, but because the course was substantially longer for some reason, it just wasn't mapped right. I actually ran at 16:56. But regardless, that last 0.16 mile, close to about 250 meters, was about a 5 flat pace. So it just really showed how much better my fitness had jumped, and it was crazy. And yeah, that's pretty much how I did it. The whole idea to this is, yes, these workouts did help a lot, but again, I had a foundation that had been building up since March to get to this point, so that when I started to do the training, it felt good, all right? Because once you start increasing that intensity, that's when your body starts to become more race ready. And little indicators that I also noticed that my fitness was greatly improving is that if my long runs felt so much easier, it felt a lot easier to run like at 740 per mile. My heart rate at certain paces was about 10 beats per minute lower than about 3-4 weeks prior. And it just shows that like when you increase that intensity after you build the mileage, you can really start to see some speed. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's the video. Thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, I do want to post more running type of videos. So I'm going to be posting a lot more content related to that kind of stuff. Conversation, self-improvement, all that kind of stuff. If you all enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, give me some love, please. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. And always remember this, it's never been easier to be above average. Take care.